I'm going to get shot at the end of this podcast, and I'm obviously concerned now that I've offended all sorts of people.
I'm not an imam.
Oh, okay, good.
I can't get on stage. I don't know a lot of religion. That was in my earlier stage of this season of my life. I can't help you there. The only thing I can do is tell everyone that from being around you how inspirational and how purposeful the things that you do. And as we sit here, what I know is I don't know what leads us in life. We all have these different experiences. They're not all shared. They're different experiences, where we come, how we were raised, whether or not we have good parents that cared about us or not.
Huge.
And I just know that we all are in this life, and if everyone acted like you, it'd be a much better world.
No. What's this?
Rule number 1, don't be number 2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's a big, easy read.
I love it.
What do you think when you hear that?
I think I'm going to get a lot out of it with not a lot having to put into it.
Okay, I like it. Okay. We ready to go, guys? All right, wonderful. We're probably recording. So, hey, James Baldwin. So here is I'm going to give you a great introduction. That's my job.
Okay.
So thank you for joining us, man, on The Necessary Entrepreneur. It's great to have awesome people. And first off, I think you're an awesome guy.
Thank you.
And well, you don't have to say thank you. I knew you would say that. But so owner and founder of Yeti Restoration here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Maybe one day, far and wide, Yeti Restoration, U.S., worldwide. But anyway, Yeti Restoration, we'll talk about that. Just an awesome company doing things in your industry. World traveler. Born in England, married a lady from Australia, and in that world travel where you were a missionary for years, traveling around and impacting people's lives and doing great things in the world. So I know there's so much more to you, but let's try to get it all in. So thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And so you just picked up a book. It said rule number 1, don't be number 2. But so welcome. Thanks for joining us and getting the studio kicked back off. So if we were to say, James Baldwin, who's James Baldwin? James Baldwin, who are you?
Who's James Baldwin? Father. I'd be a dad. 5 kids. I'm a blessed man. Our youngest turns 7 tomorrow, I think, and I should know. Let me rephrase that. Our youngest tomorrow will be 7, and so yeah, that's obviously major for me. Husband, and started a business. Yeah, we're super pumped to partner with good people around the U.S. and yeah.
So when you started the business, explain to me the world of starting a business, because you were a missionary, and I want to get into that about your world travels and how that led you and prepared you. Maybe that prepared you to be a business owner. But James, the business owner.
Yeah, it was not an obvious route, honestly. So I grew up in London. My dad was a firefighter, so it's pretty kind of stable, steady type thing. But he actually, right at when my brother and I left home, my dad started a business, and it took off. And he decided he was only going to work for the best companies, these big blue chip companies, and that's kind of out the gate what he did. And I think that was really influential. You know, the idea that you could do that, and having not grown up with it, that wasn't obvious. Right around then, my wife and I met in ministry. We were in missions in India and Pakistan and Australia, Philippines, and all over Africa. And we were living on beans, man. Like we didn't have anything, and we tried to get a loan to buy a house, and no one would lend us anything. And said, all right, well, let's see if we can get a loan. Someone said, you need to build credit. All right, in America, you got to build credit. And so we applied for a credit card. We got $500 on a credit card. I was like, all right, got to start somewhere. And anyway, we approached someone, and I asked them. I said, look, What I want to do as we kind of step out of ministry here was a few years ago. One of our kids was in hospital for a year. I couldn't travel, and because of that, we kind of looked at it and said, I essentially can't keep doing my job how it is. And Zoom wasn't a thing then. The online meetings weren't a thing, and I said, hey, something's got to give. And it's going to be the travel. I'm going to have to stay home with the family and get this kid through hospital for a year. And we reached out to someone, actually here in Cincinnati, And I said, hey, do you know anyone that would lend me money? Some bank, you've got a friend who runs a bank somewhere, and do you have one of them that would take a punt and lend me money to get a rental house? I really think I could make something work. And he said, how much do you need? And I said, man, like $25,000, right, back in the day. And
how'd that go over?
This is like 9 o'clock at night. He goes, yeah, man, I'll write you that check. You want to just come get it tomorrow? He was someone that had been around us in ministry, and he'd watched us, and we never wrote anything up. He said, just get it back to me. We had it back to him in 2 years. And but off of that, we went back to back to back to back. And in doing it, we built all these relationships with people who were watching us handle our money well, what ended up being our team, our people well. And we were just trying to honor people, trying to do the right thing. I was fighting to have the best house on a street that we could pick a tenant and pour into their life. I was doing Dave Ramsey. You ever seen Dave Ramsey?
I've seen Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. I was doing Dave Ramsey courses for our tenants at our house. Mm-hmm. So like we lived in town. We'd invite all our tenants to our house every week and do a Dave Ramsey course. And they were like, you're like putting yourself out of a job here. And I said, yeah, but wouldn't that be amazing if you bought a house? And that's what they wanted to do. So we helped several of them buy houses. And ultimately, through that, I just started saying, I love helping people when they have to press the holy, holy, holy crap button, and when it's all going wrong, I want to be there. And the place I kept seeing that was because we had all these houses, it was when the crap stuff, right? The toilet overflows, the sink, the faucet blows off, the water heater, there's mold in my baby's bedroom, they're going to die, all of that stuff. Like, I want to be there when that happens. What kind of company does that? I had no idea. So that's what we do. Now, didn't know those businesses existed, but we started kind of pivoting towards that. We had a few guys on staff, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if we got all of us trained? Let's go and all get certified. Turns out no one does that. Everyone in our industry certifies the owner, and then everyone else is a pleb.
Falls into place.
Yeah.
Hey, so something that really struck me, that $25,000 loan that wasn't written up and documented. I don't know too many people in my life, I'm just being honest, that if they came to me and said, hey, Mark, can I get a loan for $25,000? I don't know too many people that if they didn't have a proven track record of having loans before, I don't know how many people that I'd feel comfortable lending that to. Mm-hmm. However, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable lending it to anyone without a written document.
Right.
So that person that lent it to you, explain that. How'd that relationship form? Why were they willing to trust you to lend you the money?
Yeah, great question. Because actually it happened 3 or 4 times with different people where we offered, I was like, one guy said, so do you want to get a lien or something? I said, what's a lien? We had no idea what we were doing. And I think the track record was proof of who we were. Mm-hmm. So that guy, I won't name him. He's in the city here, and he might not appreciate that. But everyone had phoned him, right, asking him for a.
Yeah, can we get his number?
Yeah,
who is this guy?
That's right.
Let me
what are you loaning now with no contracts? So
how did he see you? In what scenario? How did he know you?
So we were running a ministry here in the U.S. as well at that point, and so he was the chairman of the board for the ministry that we were running here. And he was a successful business person, and he and I would say my time with him was my MBA. I would meet him every week. It was an honor. I don't see him now. He's actually not living in the city at this point, but it was a huge honor. I would have a meal with him once a week, and we'd sit down. He'd just coach me up, and so he saw me handling stress and handling my marriage and all the rest of everything, and how we handled a team in the ministry at that point. And so I think
for how long?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 years. And did he do anything significant for you in those 2 years? Was there any other money went? Who did most of the work and the effort? You or him?
Oh, me.
Of course.
Yeah, and no, there was no other money through that period at all.
Yep. So why'd you do it? Why were you showing up? That 2-year relationship you built with him. Did you have the plan that you knew you were going to need to borrow this money?
No, it was solely, I wanted to grow. I was leading a ministry that he was the chairman of. I pursued him for those meetings because I just wanted to be better. I was looking at what he was leading. He had 2,000 staff. He was doing all this stuff. I thought, man, if I could be around a guy like that, pick something up from him as we go, that could.
How many hours do you think you put in over those 2 years being around him that you weren't being paid for?
A lot.
which all that led to him being willing to lend you $25,000.
Which changed my life.
100%.
Yeah.
So if you had the moral of the story to write down for all of us to learn from, what is that?
Oh, great question. Relationship first. Fight for a relationship. I think everything I can point to that's been really impactful for me, for my family, when I look at things like we thought, what if we could get a fourplex, right? And which to us was completely bonkers. We were living on beans when we were doing this. And side note, he knew we couldn't finance what we were talking to him about out of our own income. The rent had to work, and we supplemented it because I was determined to get the money back to him in 2 years. He didn't make us do that. I just wanted to do it. I wanted to be faithful. He wouldn't take any interest payments from us. So I'm getting this man his money back in 2 years, which at the time $25,000 may as well have been $500,000, right?
Yeah.
And so but we fought for it. And when I think back to the various times like this fourplex, that was us speaking to someone in town, and I said, if you ever come across a fourplex that's for sale, and they said, actually, I know someone, right? But they trusted me, introduced me to this person, and at the time, people don't probably do this as much with the real estate market where it is now, but they asked us, well, what do you want to? What's your goal? And I said, my goal is really, I want to provide a stable income for my family. I'll tell you what I've got to put down. And they said, and you've got a bank behind this? No, I'd need to borrow the rest from you. From this lady I'd never met.
How'd that go?
And she said, let me think about it. And she went back and she spoke to the person that introduced us. And they said, yeah, they're good for it. And she sold us her fourplex. Her name was
with owner financing.
Was Mary with owner financing,
right.
And I think we put $8,000 down, and she financed the rest, having met us one time, and we paid it off in 6 years. And there was one time we phoned her, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be late making the payment. I just want you to know." She said, "You know what? Forget this month. Let's put it on the back end. I trust you. All is well."
So communication matters.
It does.
So here's what's significant about that. When she called the person, when you said, hey, can you do owner financing for me? And she called the person that introduced you, if that person wouldn't have vouched for you. And
it was over.
It was over, right? And so who was that person? Was it the same guy that loaned you the 25?
It wasn't. That was just a friend who had been around. Actually, we did a remodel in his home.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was, which is kind of what we started getting into at that in that season, which ultimately led to where we are. And we sold that fourplex and another of the rentals to start the business.
To start Yeti Restoration.
Yeah.
So back to when your dad was a firefighter in England.
In England.
How far out of, like, when we say England, we think London.
That's all there is.
Okay. So was it in London?
He was a firefighter in London.
Okay, really?
And then, yeah, and then there's a ring road around London called the M25.
Okay.
Huge parking lot, really, and we lived 1 mile on the south side of that.
Wow!
So just outside of London by a mile.
So was he a career firefighter? Did
He
he
was.
retire and then start a business? Or
yeah, he was 26 years in. He was the assistant fire chief for our state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What state was that?
So we actually call them counties, but they're states. So it was Kent County.
We've heard of that. Kent.
Really?
So when you hear of Kent, England, we don't think Kent County. We think Kent.
Okay, great.
K-E-N-T.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's they call it the Garden of England.
Really?
Really.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Is there massive rain and it's green, or what is it?
Both of those.
Okay.
So I grew up in a town called Sevenoaks, which is Henry VIII's hometown. Beautiful. His house is at the top of the hill, next to a church.
Is that from all the heads that rolled down when he did what Henry VIII did?
It is, yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
And side note, he actually started the Church of England so that he could have divorces, right? So there's a big Church of England church.
Something
right
to be
next
proud
to
of,
his house.
James. This is a great story, man. This is awesome. So your dad, so what prepared him, or what gave him the faith to go out and start the business?
I think everybody's interest in him. So two things. He wrote the law for fire investigation research in the UK. He was one of, I think, 2 or 3 guys that wrote the law for fire investigation research, which is a pretty big deal. And so when he left, he had a track record of integrity. So there was there was some things that he would be consistent. I won't go into it, but there was some stuff that he would be consistently asked to do. Unbelievably, there's some corruption in the fire service and the police, and I know that seems shocking, but he was experiencing that, and he wouldn't do it. And he would read books on this stuff and try and work out, how can I get around it? I remember as a kid, he was doing that. I remember one conversation, I don't know if he even remembers this, but I remember a conversation, me and my brother were younger, we were early teens, and he and my mum were talking at the dinner table in our kitchen, a little round table we had, and obviously little house, tiny stairs, tiny table in England, and him saying, I will never be promoted to the divisional commander role unless I do this. He said, and I'm not going to do it. And so he stayed in the assistant divisional commander role forever, and had the opportunity to go up, but wouldn't do, without going into it, wouldn't do what they were asking him to do. And people knew that, right? People in the know, in his field, they knew that. He had integrity. And so when he left, people wanted him for two reasons. He had expertise and he had integrity. And with both of those, you can change the world. I really believe relationships, integrity, expertise, what can you not do?
So it's funny. It's those same things. As we've gotten to know each other, and I knew you really before I knew the ins and outs of your business. Mm-hmm. But once I got to know you, the person, it's the same thing. I was like, this is a great guy running this business. And so we have zero problem handing our clients and our transactions off to this guy on these very emotional, significant things. And so I was pretty confident that as you told the story, I haven't heard about these things before, that those things were going to be learned and taught. And those are things that in this world, unfortunately, I know you're a very positive, optimistic guy, but unfortunately, there's not as many people with them that don't have them.
Right.
And so when you went into the integrity piece, when you speak to how you run your business, that stuff comes from somewhere. Did you just wake up with it? Do you think you learned it from your dad?
I think so. I remember reading a business book. I would have been 14 or 15. I can't remember for the life of me what it was, but my dad recommended it. I think it was the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And I think that's what it was. And there's a whole chunk in there about integrity. And I remember as a teenager thinking, why would that matter? And part of that feeling I had was I was so surrounded with integrity. It didn't strike me as something.
What's integrity to you? We'll get back in. What is it?
I think truth in conflict. If you stay who you are, and standing behind what you say you'll stand behind when there's conflict around that stuff, and that feels like integrity to me.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I thought that was just important.
Oh yeah.
So back onto the story.
It's a good question. I have to look up what it means to someone else
what's it
later.
mean? Because here's what we're finding in this world. So to me, I would explain it as integrity is just doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But here's why that doesn't carry across all oceans. Because if we polled everyone and say, hey, in every situation, what's the right thing to do here?
Right.
A lot of people have a different barometer on what that is.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, right? And so when we say, hey, people know the difference of right and wrong, well, people have different barometers of right and wrong. Right. And so I think a lot does come with the people that impacted us in our life, the ones that taught us, the family members that were the ones that passed down the things that were important to them.
Yeah.
And so when your dad started this business, what business did he start?
He started a fire consulting business.
Okay.
So people who were mostly kind of schools, museums, I don't know why I said schools, didn't do schools, museums, shopping centers, all sorts of big things. So he actually, on his kind of patch, was the largest shopping center in Europe. So what he did, and this is so instructional for where I'm at. And the reason that when I was hoping we would meet, right, the reason I wanted to meet you was really my dad. The way that he did what he did really instructed how I'm doing what I'm doing now. So he went to the largest shopping center in Europe, didn't go to anybody else. He was like, I don't want the onesies, twosies. I want the people that are going to make a big difference. And so he waited till he could get into a meeting with them, which he knew he could do. He had a relationship with them already. And he said, hey, who's currently writing your fire certificate for occupancy? And they went, we don't know. We just find someone. He said, let me do it. I'll do it for free, probably a $30,000 value, right? Let me, huge building. I'll do it for free. but here's what I want from you. I want you to write a review for me that I can put on my website that doesn't exist yet. And when someone else in the building, which is all the big players, right, at Macy's or whoever, British equivalents, when they ask, tell them I'm the guy. That was it. That's how he started his business. And so he gave them this, and then people did ask. So he straight away got a big store that had locations, or 20 locations around the country. Then he got another one. Then he got another one. Then the London Underground reached out. And in the end, he's retired, I think, 3 times, and so and then come back to the same business. When the Queen reached out, obviously not personally, but the head of the royal household reached out maybe 2 years ago and said to my dad, "Hey, this is such and such. I'm the head of the royal household." And my dad thought it was a joke, and he was retired. Right, totally. And he had already retired, and the guy said, "Look, we'd like you to oversee a project. We want to make sure that the 84 homes that Her Majesty owns are up to snuff, and we trust you. We were told to use you." My dad said, "I'm retired, but it's the Queen, and I'd love to meet you." And so he went to a meeting at Buckingham Palace, and he didn't meet the Queen. He has met the Queen, but she wasn't interviewing the fire guy, right? So he said, "Look, I don't want to screw this up. What should I charge?" He said, if you're able to tell me, I want this. I want to work for the Queen. And the guy said, "I don't think you understand how this works. We're hiring you. You tell us what you charge,
and we're going to pay it,
and we'll pay it." And so he ended up at that level because he would only go to the top players, and which is really informative, right?
So his entire this has some similarities in your career. So your dad. So there's a big debate in this world right now. And so there's arguments about, should you do extra work for free to gain experience and get your foot in the door so that then it opens doors and you can prove who you are, so then you'll be hired.
Right.
There's a ton of people who have come before us that fundamentally believe you should do way more than you're paid for, right? And then there's a huge segment of the population that says, no, I only want to work and do the things that I get paid for.
Right.
And so there's these statements out here. I don't know who said it, but we shared it on Instagram and stuff. And it says, make sure that you do more than you're paid for, because in the future you'll actually have more than you're getting right now. But if all you do, it's something like that. I probably just messed it up. But if all you do is work for what you get paid for, that's all you're going to get.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to get. Right?
So,
so to do some work for free, to show your skills, to show like, hey, I'm willing to go out here and do this. Let me show you, because there's so many people that it's tough to get that first attempt.
Yeah.
That at bat.
It is. I have 2, and I didn't do these. I haven't even said these out loud to anyone. But by example, Nick Foltz reached out to me about a house. I said, "Oh, praise God, Nick Foltz, love to."
The number one agent in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. Watch out for City beating Cincinnati, and then he won for NKY Magazine in Northern Kentucky. The first agent ever in the entire Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky marketplace that the same year has held both. Like a boxer.
Legend.
They're like, I got the championship of the world, and I got the welterweight of this state, and we put them all together, and they unified the belts.
Right.
So Nick Foltz
That's
unified.
him.
Yeah, he just unified those belts.
And he's such a nice guy.
He is such a nice guy, yes.
Such a nice guy.
Yes. So speak to it. I interrupted you a little bit about
all good. So I went out and looked at a house for him, and really, I want to build a relationship with him, period, right? I like him. I think he's really, I really think he's a nice guy.
However,
he's the
top of the food chain.
Yeah, he's got the potential to throw me quite a lot of bones. And so I went out and looked at a job and for him, and I said, "Nick, what side of the deal are you on this?" And he's, and we talked, and I said, "You really don't need to pay me to do this, man. The seller is halfway through some repairs that I think are not amazing, but are going to clear the bar. If you want me to do more, I can. It's not a very expensive home. I don't think it'd be worth losing the deal over me coming in with some high dollar thing how about I inform them on what else needs done? I'll do that through you. I'll say, hey, as long as you get this done, you've cleared the bar and we're good. And that home is going to be really healthy. If you do it, you're halfway there, do it properly, and you'll land that plane." They're obviously willing to do it. Let's have them do it, and don't end up with a check owed to me. He and I have never talked about that, but and then with Christy Atwell, actually, yesterday I went out and I looked at a job and I said, in my head, I'm looking at it thinking, this is $1,300-$1,400. I haven't spent a lot of time with Christy. I said, this is probably $800, Christy. She doesn't know. She does now if she listens to this, right? But what I want her to know I actually care about her. The deal's half done. They're waiting for closing. If this thing falls over for the sake of a small amount of mold, well, that's just silly. Let me help you, and let's get a win together so that you know you can trust me. I'm not here to dive into your pockets. I'm here for the long play, and that's a real big difference.
So this is intentional.
Yes.
It's intentional. You're not just doing this out of, like, you're an awesome guy, right? You're a missionary around the world. But this is strategic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think there's both for me. So some of it, I looked at a place today and I told this lady, you should totally DIY this. She didn't have a lot of money. I said, look, I can do this. That's going to be $2,500. That would be me being a generous, nice guy. But how about I'll write out for you the 7 things you should do, and you can save yourself $2,500. You simply don't need me to do it. And so I'm doing. She's not going to refer me anyway. There's no benefit there for me. But actually,
so why do it?
I like sleeping at night. I think it's just better service. It's better love for people that I'm around. Right? It's that sounds way more lovey than I mean it to. But I think there's a circle to that, right? I love doing that. I think it's really fun to be able to serve someone. She really, really liked us. You know
what? So many people coming up, it could be our ages, you're a little bit younger than me, but these new generations. And then here's the compound to that. You're driving a Tesla.
Yeah.
You can find tremendous success through ways to do altruistic things.
Yeah.
You still have a successful, profitable business, but every day you're trying to find these moments to make these impacts, to save money, to give people the right advice. And so you are striking this balance in your business. And all of us have lessons to learn from this in a tremendous way. So there's these stories of your dad about, with integrity, he could have been the top of the food chain running the district or the county or whatever, or the area of the city. Could have done it. Wasn't willing to give up on his integrity. He said, no, I'm not going to. I'll stay where I'm at, right? There is the story of you needed money to buy a property or to start a business, right? You couldn't have gone to a bank.
No,
banks
wouldn't.
They wouldn't give it to you,
right?
You could have knocked on 100 doors, they wouldn't have given it to you because someone in your circle that you had consistently gone all in for 2 years and didn't really get paid. You spent all this time. He didn't even think about it for a second, and he said, "Don't even write a document down 25." Then you go to buy a fourplex. Right? Probably not going to be able to get the loan and get 20% down, right? And so you go to a lady having the confidence to ask her, like, well, let's just ask her.
Right.
All she can say is no, right?
Yeah.
And to ask her, and she says, I don't know. She probably never thought going into that appointment that that's something she would do.
Right.
So then she follows up and calls the person that sent you to her, and then she calls back and says, okay.
Right.
Right? There's a consistency in these stories about what's happening in your life. And then all of a sudden, and so people think also, oh, it's like, man, you can't have it all. Well, guess what? You're showing people they can, man.
Mm.
You've got 5 kids. You've traveled the world and done this missionary work, which we want to hear about a little bit. You're sitting here, me and you are talking because I know the type of person you are, and you're serving our agents and our clients. And so you're this entire total package. I haven't met your wife yet, but it sounds like she's awesome and amazing. You're sitting here talking about the family they've done. Like, you guys are checking the box. And so there's still ways, I think, to make a tremendous difference in this world and do it the right way and be financially successful.
Yeah. I really believe that. I think when it's you've listened to Zig Ziglar.
100%, man.
He talks about, I'll butcher it, something like, if you'll help other people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want.
Help enough people get what they want.
That's it.
And it's funny too. It even compounds beyond that, right? It is, you can't even dream the things and comprehend the things that you get to have and achieve and participate in life when it happens. And you wake up one day and you're like, wow, I must have impacted a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
So what led you to do this missionary work?
Yeah.
And what is it? What's missionary work? What is it?
So I had two focuses. So I started with you've seen Billy Graham.
Yeah.
So
and I'm not inherently a religious guy. We've had conversations. I grew up that way fundamentally, but I'm not as much anymore. But I went to a Billy Graham thing at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati because even if it's something, I think what's serving me well in my life is, even if it's not a belief I have or it's a fundamental value, it's like, well, let me go educate myself.
Mm-hmm.
let me go and sit there. It's like, I'm not going to be indoctrinated into something I don't want. Let me go and see what other people are saying something about. And I sat up, and you can pick back up, but I sat up in Paul Brown Stadium, and when he started talking about, he probably spoke for 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. He was later in his life. And they turn on the music, and there's something about that music. And he had his choral director, that guy that was with him forever.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he got on, and he's singing. And he starts talking to people like, he said, hey, calm down. And I'm sure it is. It's a religious connection of, right, connecting to whatever value it is. But there was something about the feeling in that stadium around those people. Felt good. So Billy Graham.
Yeah.
So Billy Graham and missionary. Yeah.
I never saw him. Apparently was a great guy.
Yeah.
So we did something kind of like that for the first chunk of our time in ministry, where we were all over the world. We had 120 people that were skateboarders, break dancers, hip hop dancers, bikers, bladers, rappers, all of that sort of thing. And we would do events like Billy Graham, but with the X Games smashed into it. And we didn't have a guy in a suit. We had a skater who would do some, jump over a bunch of kids out of the crowd and, make it relate somehow to Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was fun. It was really, really fun. It was it's how I spent my 20s, and we got to do it all over the world. Got to be part of the bonkers thing when I look back. So I'm 40 now. When I look back at that season, I think I sat at the governor's desk in the Philippines, and I had the opportunity to meet some of the wealthiest people in various different countries, and to be with them, pick their brains, and do TV stuff and radio, all these sorts of things. And I was in my 20s. I'm like, what the heck was I doing? Who was trusting me to do that? And but I think it was so fun. It was, and I was doing something I really, really believed in, right? And meeting guys like this guy here in Cincinnati, who ultimately helped me, totally change the direction of my life. The second half of the time in ministry, I was in was two different stories, but right at the same time. So I was traveling a lot, and I was in Zambia with a friend. We were doing these big events, and you'd have thousands and thousands of people come in the evening, and you see all this crazy stuff. And we've talked a bit about that. And one morning, we're walking along the street, dirt street. Everyone's in like winter jackets, because I don't know why. Don't even know why I brought that up. But it's the middle of summer. That's why it was just so weird. I'm like, why are they wearing winter jackets? It's boiling. Anyway, these kids start walking through this field, and I'm looking across the field. I'm trying to work out what town they're coming from. There's always another little town over the way. And for some reason, it strikes me I can't see their town. They must have come from a long way. And we're with a friend there, Paul, who's a local African guy. And me or my friend, don't remember, says, where are they coming from? And he said, oh, they're coming from the field. You're like, duh.
It's not a village. The field.
The field. That's where they were coming from. And they didn't have parents. And so the oldest ones are holding the youngest one's hands, because they're coming back into town to find someone who will give them some money or some food. And then tonight they're going to go back to the field. And that for me was a holy shit moment. That was, we're doing something. I don't know what it is, but we're doing it. And so we spoke to Paul, and he said, dude, what do we do? This is affecting you. And he said, man, my dream has been to adopt 5 kids. I've always wanted to adopt kids from the fields. I'm like, well, let's freaking do it. He's now got like 40 kids and a fish farm and a place that they live and a little school. And because we got behind him, and he was a local guy that he wanted to do it. He didn't need us to tell him how to do it or what to do. He knows what to do. He's a great leader. We might have given him some coaching, but we don't know what we're doing either, right? We just had to get behind him. And then right at the same time, maybe like weeks later, I'm in Pakistan, and we're doing the same thing, right? We got streets closed off, and I'm on the back of a semi preaching to 6,000 people, and you're like, this is bonkers, and there's snipers on the top of the roof, and you got plainclothes police everywhere, and police on the stage next to us so we don't get killed, and all this stuff. It's Pakistan. It's nuts.
So why would you get killed?
Oh, not everyone in Pakistan likes the Christians very much.
When was this? What year?
This would be starting in maybe 2010. Yeah, for several years, and so we're still. I haven't been there for a few years, COVID, etc. But and they don't really need us anymore.
What city in Pakistan was it?
So 2 places: Faisalabad and Lahore.
Okay.
Which are great cities.
Large cities,
people.
Right?
Big cities.
Yeah,
big cities. Cities we've never heard of, but they're monstrous.
So when you say like death threats or how dangerous it was, like explain that. Explain how dangerous it is doing what you did there.
Yeah. So Zambia, not at all, really. Pakistan, they had the police wouldn't let us do it unless they had plainclothes police and snipers on the roof. At the local police level, they wouldn't let a white guy get up and talk about Jesus unless they had snipers on the roof. And they had like 8. To put that into context, they had 8 snipers on the roof.
How many people were in the crowd?
6,000.
In the streets or
in
an
the
amphitheater?
Street.
In the street.
It was supposed to be in a cricket ground. This particular night that I'm thinking of, it was supposed to be in a cricket ground, and the day before, the local one of the local imams was a bit feisty, and he was on the board of the cricket ground and basically said we couldn't use it, which is fine. And so I was like, well, that's over. And the local leaders were like, heck no, let's close a street down. So they went to the police. We ended up literally closing a street down. Fun part of the story, before I left, we had, I think, 3 kids at that point. Before I left, I had this dream where I'm standing on a semi-truck looking at a street full of a big street in the middle of a city, and there's snipers on the roof, and I think I'm going to get killed. And
in your dream?
In my dream. And it's totally vivid. And I decide I'm going to go anyway. We're not going to be preaching on a street. And so... And I thought several times I should tell my wife. I'm not going to tell my wife, right? So I didn't. And then we end up not being in the cricket ground. We're on the street, and I look out and I go, "Oh God, this is the dream. This is it." And I'm like, I'm going to get killed. This is how I think the dream ends. I assume, right, in the dream, there's just snipers everywhere, and my assumption is I get shot. And so I don't get shot in the dream. Nothing happens. The dream ends. But that's my assumption. And so I'm standing there on the stage, and I'm like, I'm sitting on the stage, and I think, this is it. If I get up and do this, it's over. And I sat there and I thought, this is where I got to. So 2 things happened. I told you there were one thing. So and I'll share that. Two things happened. One, I decided I think I'd want my kids to know I did it. That I said I was going to, and I did. And I better do it, because otherwise, if I don't get shot, I'm going to spend the rest of my life thinking, I should have done it. And I'll always know I wimped out, and my kids will know I wimped out. So I'm just going to do it. The other thing that happened that was as important or more important was the one of the other local clerics or imams. We'd become close. So this is back to relationship, right? We'd become close over different trips previously, and he said, James, I'm very concerned that you will be in a lot of trouble. And I said, how much trouble? He said, a lot. I said, I don't want to be in a lot of trouble. And he said, tonight, let me go on the stage with you. I will pray for you before you speak, and I will stay on stage with you. And so he got up before I said anything, and he prayed, and he came and sat back down. Then they do like a music thing, and it's Pakistan, so they run around, they hit kids with sticks and all sorts of stuff. And then, true story.
That's funny.
Isn't that hilarious? You got all these kids, they make them all the kids have to come to the front. It's like the local police are like going to keep order. They make all the kids sit at the front. You're at this thing to like hear about kindness and whatever. Every time a kid gets up to see his mum, he gets hit with a stick. Just completely nuts. But,
okay, don't take your kids to Pakistan, right?
Yeah, that's the key.
Get hit with sticks. And so he gets up on stage with you,
and he stands up before I ever speak, and he prayed, and when he sat back down, he said, I asked him, what did you say? And he said, I prayed to the God of heaven for you, and I thanked the God of heaven that you were here. And I said, wow, hey, thank you. That's incredible. And he said, just so that you know, everybody knows the God of heaven is your God. It's like,
Well, how'd they know that?
I guess that's kind of how they said, like, their kind of terminologies. Yeah.
So why do they invite a guy who is a Christian and is doing missionary work when they're a Muslim country and they don't like Christians?
So there are Christians there, and if you know how in America, if you live in a particular place and you just by merit of being there, you're a Christian, right? And so you live in southern Kentucky, in the hills, and because you live there, you're a Christian, and that's assumed. That's really the same in Pakistan. You're not allowed to speak to, technically, you're not allowed to speak to a Muslim person about Jesus, period. However, if you're a slave, it's assumed that you're a Christian. So they have slaves. Oh, that's where I started from the story, was we're out there doing that, and the guy says, well, I'm going to see the slaves and take them some bread. Want to go? Slaves? Never heard of such a thing. Thought that had gone. No, there's loads of them.
In 2010.
Millions of them. Millions of slaves.
What?
And in Pakistan, and they're the Christians. Whether or not they're Christians, they're considered to be the Christians, and because they're the lowest caste, and no one cares about them, you can say whatever you want to, and they're expected, in the same way that a Muslim person would be expected to stay a Muslim and to read their books and do their stuff, a quote unquote Christian person would be expected to read their books and do their stuff. So we were allowed in to speak to them, knowing that actually none of them have ever heard of Jesus. They don't know anything about Jesus. They don't go to church, do they? They're out making bricks. So that to me was this opportunity, because I really believe, for all sorts of reasons. I don't know how much you want me to go into this.
Go.
If you look at what they'd call, and this is with the understanding that a lot of people throughout history who say they're a Christian aren't a Christian, right? So there's all sorts of very, very bad things, and but when you look at like people who have brought that kind of westward expansion of the gospel, all of that, actually it does, and it's good on its good days. It's producing education, health, all sorts of kind of good social outcomes, and there's people in Pakistan who are living as slaves. That's not good. They need good social outcomes. They need education, healthcare, and these other elements that actually I think Jesus was a fan of. And if we have the opportunity to go into the lowest of the low, we called the ministry L3, the least, the last, the lost. It's like if we have the opportunity to get to the least, the last, and the lost, the ones that literally no one cares about, we should probably do it. And that was kind of our angle in. And so we ended up, same deal. We ended up, I said, what would it take to get one of these slaves out? Like, how can we just buy them out? And my friend Shazad says, yeah, you could, yeah. I said, what would it take? How, we go to the slave master and what do we say? And he said, well, we just have to work out, how much does their family owe? Well, how long have they been there? Oh, maybe 3 generations. What? Well, what kind of money would it be? And he said, oh, brother, so much money. Oh, like how much? Oh, it's so embarrassing, so much money. Please, tell me, how much money would it be? And he said, one family, maybe $2,000. I said, that would buy a whole family out. He said, yes, it's so much money. Well, I'd spent more than that on my freaking flight to get there. To
speak to 6,000 people.
Right.
You should definitely get somebody out of freaking slavery.
You should get someone out. So I said, well, let's do it. Let's do it. What else?
Tell me how we can do it. How can we do it?
Right.
So if I have $2,000, how do I know they're going to be released? How do I know they're not going back into slavery?
Yes.
What's the outcome?
And that was where it fell over originally, right? Is because he said, well, we start talking about it. And he says, well, this is their home though, James. Right. So can we just get them a new home? Yes, but all their friends live there. Okay, so we buy a whole village out. What do? Well, all they know what to do is make bricks. And this is where bricks are made. They can't read. They sign their names. When they collect, any payment they do get, they sign their name with a thumbprint. None of them have touched a pencil. And so we said, well, what the hell do we do? And Shazad and another friend, Ijaz, were sitting together. We're having dinner with me and another friend from here. And we said, well, then what do we do? And they said, we really think we need to start a school. Because in Pakistan, If a child has the opportunity to go to school, you're not allowed to stop them. The slave master can't stop them going to school. And if we can start a school, they can buy themselves out because they'll get a job. So, well, let's freaking do that. What does that cost? And he did the same thing. Oh, brother. Oh, it's so embarrassing. Oh, it's so much money. All right, well, shock me. Please go and do the math. Come back. Well, let's come back tomorrow. We met back at the Lion Hotel, and so I said, let's meet back at our hotel tomorrow, and shock me, freak me out, bring me what does it cost to start a school, and we didn't even talk about how many kids would it have, anything like that, and so he came back the next morning. He said, so embarrassing, brother, so embarrassing. Please, freaking tell me $4,000. What? Yeah, $4,000. What would that include? 2 months rent and a generator because the power goes out, and chairs for 70 children, and reading and pencils. And we said, yeah, we'll get $4,000. And so I phoned a friend here in Batesville, a really good friend. And I said, dude, you just wouldn't believe my day. I just met slaves yesterday for the first time. I'm sitting in this hotel in Pakistan. I just met slaves for the first time. This has just happened. Dude, we can start a school for freaking $4,000. And he said, does that include the teachers? I have no idea.
So go find out, right?
Yeah, so I'm like, I'll come back. And he says, dude, I don't care if there's a tax deduction. I don't care. I'll fund it for the first year. Tell me where to send a check. And I said, Western Union? And so he went to Western Union, wired me the money to Pakistan. We went, let's go, boys. Let's start a school. And so that school's still there. There's 200 some kids in there now. They're doing it, which is awesome.
Can you track them getting out of slavery? Can you track that?
We can't yet. They're not there yet. Our first batch of kids are about to graduate. So this will be our first.
So here's a question I have for slavery in Pakistan. I'm sitting here like just fascinated because there's so many things going through my mind. I try to be so independent in this world of politics and religion and all these things, and say, hey, let me just try to understand it a little bit from both sides. But here's what's so fascinating to me is, you said millions, but I don't know how many slaves.
I believe it's millions, yeah.
So as my head goes to a slave, is this indoctrinated in the way they live, and it's almost voluntary slavery?
Oh, good question.
Sorry if that offends somebody, but is it, because it sounds like, well, it's like that's what they know. That's where their friends are. All they know how to do is make bricks. So is this an education piece, or is it forced?
So what it stems back to is it always stems back to a loan. So the collateral for the loans, and they're stupid loans. Like 2 generations ago, my granddad needed a donkey for his hauling business, and he wasn't going to get a car because he's in Pakistan. So he got a donkey and a trailer, and it cost him $100 to buy a donkey from someone on a trailer. And now he couldn't make up the loan, and now a generation later, our whole family lives in a little house, and there's a slave master. He makes us make bricks that he sells in the market.
And the government reinforces.
So the government, it's actually illegal to have slaves. But so this is like, obviously, it's amazing. Pakistan's amazing, right? So it's completely illegal to have slaves. Every kid is going to be in school by, I think it was 2010 or 2020. They have 20 million kids not in school right now in Pakistan. So, I mean, it's worse than it's ever been. They didn't start building schools. They just had a goal to not have kids not in school. Obviously, you got to back that up with a school built every now and then, and I'm sure they built some schools. Let's say they didn't keep up, and but they've got there's so many problems overlapping. I sat next to the only time I've ever been upgraded on a flight. Obviously, when we fly somewhere, you'll get us upgraded, right? So, but for me, I flew all over the world.
You don't know how frugal I am. No one's told you this.
They haven't yet.
Okay.
I'm really disappointed.
Ask around. You're lucky if you even have a seat. You'll be sitting in the aisle if you travel with me.
Hang on to the wings. So I finally get upgraded. First time ever. I've flown around the world multiple times. Never once got upgraded. And so I'm flying out of Pakistan to Jordan, and I'm like, I've got to get myself freaking upgraded one day. My wife had just been on a flight from like Paris to Sao Paulo, and she got upgraded to first class. And I was like, are you freaking kidding? I fly way more than you. How am I? But she's pretty, and she had tight pants on, and so I thought
those things still matter.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And so I thought, I'm putting my tightest pants on. I'm getting freaking upgraded.
So, you think the world's fair? You have that misconception as well.
There
aren't the same rules for everyone. I'm sorry, there's not. But it did work?
So long story. I get my tight pants on and all of that, and I get upgraded, and I end up on this flight from I don't know, it was Lahore or Faisalabad or Karachi or somewhere to Jordan, and I'm sitting next to the Pakistani direct minister for the environment, and like from government, and a high level and a highest level, and so we ended up talking. And I'm so fascinated with his. What was interesting was he was so fascinated with what I was doing in Pakistan, and I was just totally fascinated with what he was doing. And I said, "So in Lahore, I just left Lahore, and I'm like,
and you have slaves."
Yes,
like that's what I just wouldn't be able to hold back, and I'd say, "Okay, so you have slaves, and how is that okay?"
Right.
And he'd hate me for the rest of my life probably in his life. Yeah.
Well, I would say we didn't stay in touch. So, I mean, he might hate me. But actually, where I started was, okay, you're the Minister for the Environment. I said, look, when I think of London, where I grew up, 1 mile outside of London.
Kent.
In Kent, the Garden of England.
Right down the hill from, what, Henry VIII? Is that it?
And Anne Boleyn's head used to roll past my house on a weekend.
Sorry.
So I said, you know, I think of London, and 120 years ago, we had open sewers. You have crazy. It looks like from the air, these rivers look like rivers, but these rivers are sewers for cities of 8 and 10 million people, and they're just open sewers. And there's people who are slaves. Actually, these technically aren't slaves. These are government employees for a couple bucks a day, but they're quote unquote Christians again because it's the lowest caste. They have to jump in there and pull plastic bags out. And so I'm. How do you get? He was on his way to Toronto to some like meeting of world leaders for the environment, and I said, how do you get from where you are in Pakistan to Toronto? How does that happen? How long does that take? And what's the next step? I said, I'm so fascinated by this. He said, we have no idea. That was his answer. We have no idea. And I said, and I was very nice because I'm a very nice person. I said, but you've got to have an idea. Someone's working on this. And he said, we have so much construction. So this is ironic, goes back to your bricks being made by slaves, right? And so they're the ones over here, we have oil interests or whatever, blah, 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 influencing our government, I'm sure. Obviously that's not happening. But over there it's brick interests. Like, how crazy. And so
they have so much construction.
We have so much construction, we can't keep up. We can't start building sewers. We're still building buildings. And so they're way behind. And so part of the problem is the fabric of society. If you take away slavery, the concern would be the fabric would fall over.
It sounds like they needed to get out of the 17 and 1800s of.
I think that would help them a lot.
Right.
Mm.
How, from all the travel that you've done around the world, how can that happen? How can a Pakistan how can it become civilized? Because the issue is there's civilized people there.
There's wonderful people there. But you actually, I joke about, well, it's not a joke. There was corruption in the fire department, right? But we're not, it's not customary. It's not like someone's always sliding $5 somewhere, right? But in Pakistan, in Zambia, hopefully no one from those places is listening and going to come and find me this afternoon.
Well, they'll find me now, too.
Okay, well, that's
Thanks,
good.
James.
But they know, right, that it's so deep-rooted. It's so deep-rooted that I think that, again, going back to integrity and relationship and all of this, if you have good relationship and good integrity, you don't do that.
So how close are we? And we'll get back to, like, business and impacts that you can make, but because we could probably talk about these stories. How long did you do missionary work?
10 years.
Okay. So you have so many different stories.
So many. Okay. Don't want to bore you.
So I just read an article today, and I think I pulled it up on Yahoo News, so I don't know where it came from, but it came through Reuters or Newsweek. Who knows? With the news today, you just don't know if it's completely accurate, who put the poll on. But what it said that the majority of Americans, and so now, unfortunately, the majority of Americans on any topic are like 51% because it seems like people are so divided on things. I don't know if we are or not, but it seems like we are. And so 53% of the citizens of the U.S. that were polled believe that we will no longer be a democracy at some point in the future. And then they had other questions. So I don't know who they asked. Were they college students? Were they retired? I don't know. But when you read something like that supposedly a credible news source puts out, there's this feeling out here in the air, in the water. I mean, just turn on the radio. Listen to a podcast sometimes. There's a lot of negativity. It's like, do we have a recession coming? What about inflation? And then we had COVID, and then you have Russia and all this stuff going on. And what goes through my head every day in operating and trying to run a successful business and convince other people, like, this world of entrepreneurship and dictating your own outcome, it's worth it. But I think about it, I'm like, man, if you pay attention to all this stuff, and I'm going to connect it back to this Pakistan story, but if you pay attention to all this stuff, there is no way that you can be thinking about the right things, put your head down, control the controllables, not let the other things impact you and affect you. You probably think that the sky is falling. And I don't know why our country, our news media, I don't know why they're trying to convince us of it. It must be clicks and eyeballs, but it seems like every day I wake up, they're trying to convince us to it. So it's like, hey, guys, you know this country, you know the history, right? And so you know this country went through a lot of significant things with a lot of people building it. We did some stuff wrong, but at the same time, we also did some things really well. Do you want to go back?
Right.
Do you want to become Pakistan? Because they can't even figure out how the hell to get out of it.
Right.
Is that what you want? Do you really want to go back and live that? And are you so damn selfish and short-sighted about these fundamental things you believe? Like, you really think you have a bad life?
Right.
I look around every day in this country, and I see people living the best life they've ever lived. I see them, like, how we grew up. I grew up very, very humble and very poor. But, man, we couldn't have even dreamt of having anything like a cell phone,
right,
an iPhone, access to the internet, having the type of food even that some people in the lower part of our societies get to have. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be our passion to lift people up and help change their lives. But, man, the poorest person in this country is probably damn upper middle class in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we just get lost in this world of doom and gloom, right? Waiting for somebody to come save us. I can't control my outcomes. Look at what happened to me in the victimization of my life. It's like, you know what? If you weren't so damn lucky to be born in this country and hit the DNA lottery, and you were born there, born in China, born in Pakistan, born in North Korea, born in Zambia, so many other places, you wouldn't be crying. You'd be doing everything you can to fight to get in this damn country.
Right.
And it's so frustrating. Like, I don't want to yell and scream at people, but it's like, man, the opportunities that you have when you wake up every day to control and dictate your outcome, those people in Pakistan, they haven't even had the kids yet. They're going to be born into that same brick-making shit, and that's all they have, right?
Right.
And in Zambia, those boys that are living in the field, and they don't even have parents. Jesus, man, get over yourself and realize that you actually have an opportunity to control some things and live an awesome, amazing life.
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sakes. And so it's frustrating. And so I hate to go down this path of like negativity or is our democracy crashing down? Why are people fighting over it? Because I think you should be able to be a Christian. I think you should be able to be a Muslim. Yeah. I think you should be able to be a Jew, and you should be able to be like me and be like, I don't know what the hell any of y'all are talking about, right? But I think we should just go out and make positive impacts in people's lives. What the hell is the problem with that? Why do I care to try to convince you that you don't believe the same thing I believe? Mm-hmm. What I know is we're both treating people well.
Yeah.
Right? The stories you told about going out and helping people DIY and save money and doing things for our agents and helping our clients, those are great things. I don't care if you're Christian.
And it doesn't matter.
Right? But here's the thing. But the damn media and the freaking politicians of this world, they're trying to convince us it does, so you go agree with their damn side.
Right.
There's just so many battles and so many fights over shit that doesn't even matter, man. And I'm hoping that we don't have to learn some lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
So with my kids, one of the things we've two kind of side-by-side things. On one, I've been to Pakistan a bunch of times. I don't remember which trip, but on one of them, we were. I don't remember what I was doing, but I had just been out at the school, that school that we talked about, and I get back to the hotel and I get on Skype back in the day, and it was terrible connection, all this stuff, and in the background, I've got 3 or 4 kids at that point. And they're running around in the background, and I'm like, babe, could you go somewhere else in the house? And I've just been with my friend Shazad. He has 3 kids, and they live in one room, and they're doing well for a Pakistani family. They've got one room and then a little courtyard outside that room where they do their cooking. And I'm looking at this visual of my wife getting up, thinking through, I've got like 10 rooms I could possibly go to, right? And then in the background, I'm like, what are they doing? And she says, they're arguing over who gets the orange icy. And I went, like hell, put them on now. I said, you have no idea. Who do you think? And it wasn't appropriate, but I was really, I don't really shout at my kids. I don't really shout. And so I was really upset. And it wasn't their fault. They don't know. But I had this kind of moment of, this kind of revelation. We're not doing anything wrong to have nice shoes. We're not doing anything wrong to have ices. But gosh, if we can't appreciate that we have it, that's probably wrong. And I think we're so disconnected from it. So like this fall, my family are going to Bogota, Colombia, and which is not your typical vacation spot.
For you, it is.
Yeah. We're trying to. Our goal is to go to a different foreign country every year with our kids. So COVID screwed that up.
Is it your goal to have to give them every shot for every vaccination for every possible disease? Is that your goal?
That's the plan.
Okay. Good. Good.
Yeah. And so we really wanted them to get into at least second or third world country kind of soon while they're still young. And our goal was perspective. Exactly what you're saying. Hey, if you don't know that you are blessed, lucky, whatever, being here, we haven't done a good service to you.
Let's go get you some damn perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
It changes how you receive other people.
Yeah. I just take a step back, and it's like the audaciousness of so many of us in this world, and all of us at times, right? I'm not immune to it, right? To get caught up in your day and how tough it is and, oh, my God, my life. And how audacious to think that the way you think, the ideals you have, that you're right and everyone else is wrong. Mm-hmm. I think that's the old humility word, right? Yeah. You can be confident and humble at the same time. And so I don't know how. I think that's what our country's lost. I think we've lost perspective.
Yeah, I agree.
Which absolutely sucks. And maybe the perspective is being around guys like you to say, hey, listen, this isn't just about making money, because I can have a successful business and do things not just the right way, like the really, really right way. Mm. It sounds like you keep on telling me it's your goal to not be a for-profit business.
It sounds like that, doesn't it?
It does sound like that, right? Is that why you had to get a Tesla, because you can't afford gas prices
That's
now?
Exactly right.
You got to plug in.
I was like, forget this. Get me a Tesla now.
What do you think, like, when you get up, we have these books and stuff sitting around here. What are some of the things that, when you get up every day, like, what are the things you think about? What's the stuff that keeps you going? What's the stuff that James could share with the world, with me, the things that you hope your kids are going to, I don't know, saturate and take out into the world?
Yeah. My kids are super, super important to me. Obviously, I'm sure everyone's kids are important to them, or they've got real problems. But I think what I kind of dream for my kids, we tell our kids we've got 3 things we want them to do. We want them to know and love the Lord, know and love each other, know and love us. I think if I can get to the point where that's a true story, I'm a very, very happy man. The rest of it doesn't really, everything else is peripheral after that. I want my kids to love me when I'm old, and I think, my mum's here right now from England, which is fun. I love my mum. She's great. And so, my kids love her. And so her older years are going to be really super, because she's very loved, and she loves on them. And I think, man, if I can find one thing for the people that I'm around, if they knew that I loved them and they loved me, again, I sound like I'm very lovey-dovey here. But that's the thing we say to our kids all the time. I don't care if you go to college. I don't care if you play sports. I don't care if you win or lose at stuff. What I care about is, for me, know and love the Lord, know and love each other, know and love us. And so we say to our kids all the time, hey, are you going to really have an argument about that with someone you're going to know for the rest of your life? Do you think that's going to matter? If yes, keep going. If no, let's give that up, because this is your brother. You're very likely to know him till you're dead. And so just put that in perspective.
You're exhausting as a parent, James Baldwin. They're going to be great kids, but you're exhausting as a parent. So the youngest turns 7 tomorrow.
Yeah.
And his grandmom from England is here for the birthday.
She is. She's staying. She's going to fly out kind of in a couple days afterwards.
What do you call grandma in England? Did I get that right?
Grandma.
Grandma.
Yeah. Grandma.
So what do you have to share with us about English? When did you come to the U.S.? When did you leave England first?
I left England in 01,
Okay.
2, somewhere there.
Okay.
01.
So like 17, 18, 19, 20.
Years old.
Yeah.
I was 20. I was I was
01.
21. I was
Okay.
21.
All right. Where'd you go? You went to Australia?
Moved to Perth, Australia. Paradise.
Because that's where you met your wife.
Indeed, yeah. So ironically, I moved to Australia. She moved to England, and we missed
She
each
knew
other.
you were coming.
Indeed. And so we missed each other. So she moved back as I was about to move to the US as a single person, which I did for a year. And then I moved back, and so kind of funny. We shared friends, so she'd moved away. I'd moved, and these guys were like, "Oh, you'd love this girl, Christina. You guys would get on so well." And obviously, that makes you not like someone. I don't know if that happens to you. That could just be judgmental stuff in me.
For the most part, it's the ladies. When the guys think that they want to get to know them, they're like, "No, not a chance in heck."
Totally.
It's when you're not into them is when it happens.
That's
for
true.
you, right?
That's true.
Okay. All right.
So then I leave. She comes back. I'm in the US, and she has all these people saying, "Oh, you're going to love James." She's like, "No, I'm not." And then I come back, and I was like, "Oh, guys, you're right. She's great. She's really hot, and she's cool." And she said, "Yeah, I knew I was right. I don't like him at all." And then we spent the next year me trying to win her over. Then we finally get married, and I say finally, it was 9 months. 9 months after we started dating, we got married, and then this opportunity came up to move to a place called Ohio that we'd never heard of for 2 years, and we were like, "Yeah, what a fun thing to do. Where's Ohio?" And I swear, this is how this happened. It's in the Midwest. Okay, truly. We went to get an atlas, and we sat down. I can picture the sofa
You just
sitting
aged
on.
yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're gonna pull up Google Maps.
That's right. So we open this atlas, and because America's always the country that's got its own page, and it breaks down what all the states are, right? And so we're like middle of the West, obviously left page, halfway across, Montana, Idaho. Ooh. Those would be cool. Look at the mountains. It's going to be here somewhere. South Dakota, North Dakota. Where the hell is Ohio? And we keep going and going and going. We looked at the left. I promise. We looked at the left page twice and went, "It's not freaking there. This would be the middle of the West." And so we finally find it. We're like, "It's in the bloody Northeast. Why is that called the Midwest?" It made no sense to us. We were very excited.
So did the Northeast folks have a bad reputation in your mind? Did you not want to go to the Northeast?
No, I just couldn't find them. Where were they?
We're not Northeast, just so you know.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. You hear this no accent that I have?
Indeed.
Yeah. So what do Americans need to know that people around the world think we should?
I'm not sure I can answer that question safely.
Answer it. We're not safe here. I had this discussion about the relaunch of our podcast. I'm like, we're going anywhere.
Perfect.
Okay.
So funny story. I was at the rodeo last weekend. Totally recommend it for everybody.
What are you doing?
Someone invited us, and I was like, "Rodeo? What the?"
Hey, you remember you didn't go to Montana, right?
That's right.
You're in Ohio.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
It
Going to
was
rodeo?
amazing. It was the most.
Okay, you said it's amazing. What would you go to that's not amazing? You're such an optimistic, positive guy. What would not be amazing?
A
NASCAR race?
NASCAR might not be amazing.
But a rodeo is?
Oh, man.
Oh, okay. They didn't
was
have
great.
rodeos in England.
No.
Okay,
no.
all right. So you go to the rodeo.
So it was legit. There was 60 young men who were going to ride on random bulls and get knocked over and
Hey, just so you
mown
know,
down.
I think we created rodeos, so this isn't something the world says we need to know. I hope you're
Oh,
going
okay,
somewhere with this. Okay, but you can say you went to the rodeo.
So this guy, before they start, I mean, this is brilliant. He's wearing this bright red shirt. He's got a 10-gallon. Everyone had big hats and boots and buckles and denim. Everything was denim.
It's a rodeo. Have you not seen Yellowstone and
No.
like John Wayne from back in the day and
yeah.
spaghetti westerns, Clint Eastwood?
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Okay. So,
So
those are cowboys.
Right. Yeah. And this was it was just gold. The whole thing was
Spurs.
gold.
It had the spurs on.
Oh, I didn't see Spurs. I'm going to take some when I go back next weekend. So anyway, the guy says, I'll try his accent for you. You can let me know how it goes. And he says, "Now, boys and girls, I'm going to tell you something. says, this photographer over here, he's been all over the world, and I mean all over the world. And he tells me everywhere he goes in the world, and I mean all over the world, everywhere he goes, people say, where are you from? He says, I'm from America. And they fall on their knees and wash his feet. And everyone cheered and clapped. And I thought, that's the craziest, brilliant. It's just amazing. That was incredible. But he was straight-faced. This guy, I think, believes that all over the world people are meeting Americans going, my God, and falling on their feet, on their knees, and just grabbing water and washing people's feet. And I thought, that's amazing. He clearly does believe that. And one thing that's really amazing for me about America and Americans is this incredible self-belief. There's a reason that we start so many businesses here, right? We truly, truly believe we're the best. This is the best. Obviously, it's the best. Anywhere I go in the world, people will fall out of their cars when they see me to wash my feet.
You're saying that's not the way it is?
Well, it might not be how it is.
So when I asked the question, what came to your mind? Is that it? Is it?
No, that was just a funny story.
So that's it. So basically, the world doesn't kiss our ass the way we think they do.
Oh, that wasn't where I was going necessarily. That might be true as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I think so. America's so interesting, isn't it? I was sharing with our team today because we've got a couple guys who are kind of rising up in leadership in our small organization. And I said, guys, one thing to be aware of. You know how sometimes I step in and I say, hey, this is good, guys, but not so good. And there's a little bit of a James is an arsehole when I leave the room. I know it happens. It has to happen. And they're like, yeah, it does. And you've got a bit of an up yours that happens. And I'm like, that's okay. This is about to happen to you. When you're a leader, you have a target on your back. And you have to get used to that. And if you don't want a target on your back, don't be a leader. And that's what America's got. America's the leader. And they've got a target on their back. Everyone else, and people love America, right? All over the world. There's people who love America everywhere. But you've also got this bit. When I watch the Olympics, I hope America comes second or fourth. Every time.
Why, James?
Because we always come first. And I'm like, oh, let's see Pakistan get a swimming medal. That would be amazing. I would like to see Sierra Leone win the bobsled, right? You're like, oh, that would be so great for their little country. Oh, this is awesome. I hope America come fourth.
Why do you hope that?
I think because I just expect, I'll say us. I expect us to win anyway. We don't need it. And so I think intrinsically perhaps, maybe I'm looking at the target on America's back. Again, I've chosen to live here when my kids are American. I love it here. But maybe there's something in me that's like, oh, screw it. We don't need to win anymore. We won. We're the biggest. We're the richest. We've got, I don't think we have the most freedom, but we say we do.
Who has more freedom?
Oh, it's a good question. Well, it would throw us into a political bent.
I don't care. We can handle it.
Okay. So I think there's elements of everywhere I've been. I'm like, wow, that's probably better. You guys are probably doing this much better than we're doing this at home. And in America, hey, there's things here that we're doing better. So one of the funny things when we came here, and we have a nice house, and we'd like to be able to sell it for what it's worth for later through pivot, obviously.
Of course.
And
there's no other choice.
Indeed. And so we're going to get some work done to it. We want to put an egress in, whatever, blah blah. Well, we're going to get a permit for it. The funny thing is, in England, I wouldn't have to get a permit for it because it's my house. And what the hell do you think you're doing coming into my house? The government's not allowed in my personal property. That's a funny freedom to come here to the land of the free and realize I have to pay to let you in my house and for you to grant me permission to do work in my own building or put a fence up or not. That's weird. That doesn't seem like the freedom we're all talking about. So there's kind of funny things like that. You think, but then, hey, in England, there's problems. And then the same in Australia. You think, man, these guys have got this amazing healthcare system. It's like a hybrid of everything I've seen everywhere else in the world.
Hybrid of Sweden, hybrid of Canada, hybrid. So it's a hybrid.
Yeah, so it's a privatized system with a subsidized underbelly. So if you don't have money, you can totally get in the subsidized underbelly of the system. you're in. There's no question at all. So we had a motorbike crash. The day we found out my wife was pregnant, had her on the back of a motorbike, came off in the middle of the outback, and had to get picked up by this dude who was a Serbian mountain rescue worker who happened to be driving by and saving my life. And then someone else who was passing drove off and found an ambulance station in the outback and came back. I mean, brilliant. So
have you seen that movie, The Wonderful World of Walter Mitty?
No.
Is this what you're doing? Are you fabricating these stories from Pakistan to Zambia to falling off a bike in the outback? And when you say outback to me, I want some of the good bread when I sit down to have, like, I don't know what. Yeah, right?
You want a bloomin' onion.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Right. That's my outback.
Do you think?
And I'm not breaking a leg to go have my bread and a bloomin' onion in my outback. Do I think what?
Do you think I should be able to get a free bloomin' onion when I go there? I always put on the Australian accent. I go for my wife's accent. I lay it on. I always say, guys, this is great. This is just like home. Hey, what deals you got for Australians? I'll make you look good to all the people here. And they never have gone for it.
Okay, let me give you a principle of this life. There's nothing given, only earned.
I feel like I was earning that bloomin' onion.
Why? Because you think your accent gets you somewhere here, huh?
That's right.
You're from England, sir. If your wife decides to speak from Australia, and maybe your kids have a commingling of all of it, I bet they sound like they're from Ohio.
They do.
What do you know?
What do you know?
Right. So, all right. So sorry, you're in the outback, and somebody flies off the motorbike. You have no money, and you're not in the healthcare system. So sorry.
And so they pick us up. They scrape me off the dirt. They say, "How many beers does it take?" All right, mate, how many beers does it take to get you drunk? And I say, don't know. And they say, we're going to assume 6. That'll instruct our morphine dose. Here you go. And then they give me morphine. That's the last thing I remember for a while. Then I wake up in some, like, what looks like a field hospital. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then I remember turning to my wife going, I love you. And then I'm out again. And then I wake up in a big hospital in the city. We've been transported to another hospital, and they're going to put a bar in my arm and whatever else, which ends up not happening. I have a surgery instead. And then a week later, I'm going to one of my physio appointments, and I get home and I get a call from the police. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the police are following me up just to make sure I'm okay. And I said, yeah, everything's all right. He said, did you get your physio? Are you just want to make sure it was a rental motorbike, right? And I said, yeah. And they said, any problems with that? Do you need any assistance? No, I think we're good. I paid for the insurance on the bike. And he said, okay, great. Well, thanks, mate. I'm going to close this out then. No bill. It's amazing. But actually, there's a private system going on as well. And if I choose to go and see a dentist, there's a subsidized thing for people who have less than $100,000 income or whatever. You go and you have to pay $100 or whatever it is. And if you have lots of money, you pay $200 or whatever. There's this kind of thing.
It's a tiered system.
It's really interesting. It's all private healthcare, but there's this subsidized thing to it. And you're like, that's an interesting system. I'm going to get shot at the end of this podcast, and I'm obviously concerned now that I've offended all sorts of people.
I'm not an imam.
Oh, okay, good.
I can't get on stage. I don't know a lot of religion. That was in my earlier stage of this season of my life. I can't help you there. The only thing I can do is tell everyone that from being around you how inspirational and how purposeful the things that you do. And as we sit here, what I know is I don't know what leads us in life. We all have these different experiences. They're not all shared. They're different experiences, where we come, how we were raised, whether or not we have good parents that cared about us or not.
Huge.
And I just know that we all are in this life, and if everyone acted like you, it'd be a much better world. And the tough thing for me to understand is I just don't know why we don't. It's disappointing as hell. And so I think the only thing you can do is a guy like you can get up every day, and a guy like me to try to surround ourselves more with people like you that shows us that you can treat people in amazing ways and still have a successful business and raise 5 kids and have a wife that loves you, that you convinced. And so I just don't understand that why parents don't realize that once they have a kid, I don't have kids. But I know that when a parent decides to have a kid, when an adult, the most important thing that they have to do with the rest of their life is like make that a good human being.
Yeah, the work's not done.
No, like that's your job then, and to care, to go all in, to train, to teach them these things, and so it seems so simple to me, but at the same time, some are being born into slavery in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And some are being born to integrity-filled firefighters in Kent, England. And some are being born into very, very high net worth families here when the parents aren't even there.
Right.
It just seems so simple. I wish that everyone understood that we can treat everybody great, run good businesses, look out for others, and still have a great life. I don't know, man. I guess every day, guys like you get up and you can impact and affect a lot of people, and then you start making these incremental impacts little by little. And one day I hope we wake up as a damn country and just realize all this shit that we're fighting about, all of it, on all these controversial topics, man, just start treating people well. Just treat them better. Just try to be kind. And we're all assholes every once in a while.
Right.
We are. Every once in a while we're all moody, or you say the wrong thing to someone, or you're like, wow, I could have done better. But damn it, man, just to get up and realize, quit being so damn selfish and trying to make impacts in people's lives.
Like you and I were talking about a week or two ago, I think there's so much everybody actually agrees on in the middle, right? You know, I've got to assume 95% of the people that are around me, if not 100 of my neighbors and my neighborhood and the town I live in, if not 100% of them, we all agree on a bunch of the stuff in the middle. And that's the stuff that probably is most worth agreeing on. You know, do I really think it's better that our kids are protected in their schools? Yeah, I do. I didn't mean that to be a gun issue.
Okay, no.
I just mean, do I think it's better that actually my kids have a safe route to school? They get there, they get a good education, they get to enjoy each other. My daughter had some weird thing happen in her school with these boys. She wasn't touched or anything, but it was bad. I'll just say it was bad. And I phoned the principal, or the school counselor, and I said, and this is the tone I said it, and I said, hey, I appreciate the only role I have here is the angry dad. I said, but this is the report I'm getting from my daughter, and I'm really deeply concerned that would happen. I think you are as well. Could you jump in on this and help just work out what happened? 2 hours later, he phoned me back, and he said, I just want you to know, I met with the boys' parents, and like 2 hours later, in the middle of the day, they'd come in because he said, we have to talk. The boy went home with them, and they had this whole conversation with the principal and with the boy as well. And he called my daughter and he said, I don't want you to relive any of this, but I want you to know you're safe here. We'll do whatever it takes to protect you. I'm like, dude, I couldn't ask for any more than that. This crazy stuff's going to happen, but I have to believe there's a guy like that, and there's parents like that kid's parents who they're screwing up as much as I am, right? We're all screwing up. We don't know what we're doing. We're making it up as we go. But I have to believe there's enough people around me that are like, yeah, look, at the end of the day, yeah, we want them to have a good education. We just all think kids should be protected. We just all think that it would be better if we lived in safe communities, we waved to my neighbors. And if they're sick, I should probably go and say hi. You know, everyone agrees on that. We all agree that I'd rather, when your bill comes, you pay it and put a tip on it. That's just better for the person that served you, whatever. We all agree on this stuff. Not that that's the core principles of our society.
No, but your point is we agree on the important things.
Yeah. And so do we think you should have this type of control, this type of control? Look, that's kind of periphery. Mm-hmm. There's all sorts. Yeah, should you have this paid for by the government or this not paid for? That's periphery. Yeah. If I'm kind, we have what we call a social promise in our business. And when you come to Yeti Restoration, before you come, actually the first document we give you is our social promise. And it says, when we're together, how do we want to treat each other? And we created this together. Love, respect, honor, kindness, integrity, all this stuff, no gossip. And it says, if we don't do that, what should we do? And so we created this document together. It took ages. And so we said, well, we should go to the person one-on-one. If I'm offended with you, I should come to you. If I go to someone else, that's gossip. It's not going to help. They can't fix the problem. I think you were the idiot. So if I go to someone else, they're going to think you're an idiot. But I could come to you and find out you weren't an idiot. Maybe I read this wrong. And so we go with pre-forgiveness. So we created this document, and we've been talking recently. We had our quarterly team meeting a couple days ago, and one of the conversations is, how can we make this smaller and simpler so we could say it in a sentence? And we're going to keep the document. We've worked on it for years. We've played with it for years, and it's like the central document for how we're going to treat each other. And it's really influential. But actually, it'd be really nice if it was short as well. And what we came up with so far is going to be probably something along the lines of, be kind. If you just like people, be good to them. They'll probably be good to you as well. That's just going to be better for the world.
Who's the person that impacted you the most in your life?
There's a few. My dad.
Okay, why?
I would say, gosh, there's so many avenues there. He was a very present dad. So interestingly, I raised that with him 10, 15 years ago. And he said that the thing I tried to do was, if I was, so he worked shifts for a long time, right? He was in the London Fire Brigade to start with, and they do shifts. It was 72 hours on, 72 hours home, or so, whatever it was, something like that, 42, 72. And I don't remember, but I don't remember that at all. I just remember consistently we had dinner together. But apparently we only did that 3 nights a week. I don't remember that, which is really interesting to me. But he said, I wasn't as present as you think I was. I said, in that case, you must have been very present when you were present. And that's so influential to me. Yeah, I think probably because of that.
You recently wrote a book.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's fun.
You
critiqued the heck out of it, right? When you sent it, and I'm like, well, you sent it to me, and I saw it, and you're like, what do you think? I'm like, who cares what I think? You wrote a book. Who cares if there's misspelling or any of that stuff? So it is, Yetis eat mold for breakfast.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pretty cool topic.
Thanks.
I'm pretty sure it's long. I'm pretty sure no one's written that before, right? So Yeti Restoration. So Yetis eat mold for breakfast. Why'd you write the book?
So we trip over with customers this idea that there's lots and lots of mold companies, and so there's 2 things I wanted to do. One, I wanted to set us apart as we're the experts. I really think we are the experts, and so there's that. I wanted to set us apart, but I really wanted people to have correct information. Because we'll go into places. I had a call with a realtor maybe I don't know, sometime last week. And we had put a bid together. They liked us. They thought, this happens a lot. People are like, hey, we were going to have 3 people, and then you were the second, and we just liked you. And we're not even going to have the third person come, but your bid's different to the first people. Okay, well, how can I help you? What's wrong? Well, you're a little bit cheaper. Oh, okay. Well, note to self, I'll make it more expensive next time.
I thought you cared about people and wanted to save them money, James.
That's right.
All right, sorry.
And so, side note, we're not always cheaper. Sometimes we are more expensive. But in this case, last week, I was cheaper. And they said, but you're cheaper because you're missing fogging. You're not fogging. And I said, hey, look, we're not fogging messing around here, guys. So I said, oh, well, that's because I don't think it'll help you. What is it you want to achieve with fogging? And they said, well, these other people, it's another $1,000. So we're talking about an unfinished basement. It's a nice house. It's an unfinished basement. The basement's maybe 1,100 square feet. And they're going to charge them $1,000 for fogging. Well, fogging is going to take $30 of stuff and a $200 piece of equipment and about 7 minutes. And so they're going to charge $1,000 for it. And in an unfinished basement. Now, if it was upstairs and you had to go through and cover every television, every whatever, and all this kind of crap, well, yeah, it's going to cost a bit more because I'm going to have hours invested in preparing your house. But unfinished basement, nothing in it. They've moved out. I said, right, what? And I said to them, what do you think fogging is? And they said, well, we think these other people explained to us it's antimicrobial, blah, blah. I said, okay, so let me just explain it to you like this. Mold is oil-based, it's oil-based spores, and fogging is water-based, just like all chemicals are water-based. And so just from a quick chemistry lesson, they're going to repel and not counteract. And so because of that, fogging's not going to do anything. It could land on the mold and not do anything to it because it's water landing on oil. And so they'll just sit next to each other for a while until the mold drinks the water. I just don't think that's going to help you very much. And she literally said, So you don't think you should add that line item? I said, that's correct. I think you should save the money. Even if you go with them, tell them, we want the job done properly. We don't want to pay for the fogging. Thanks.
Definitely hired you.
And they hired us.
100%.
And so that's what the book is. Hey, let's get through all the crap. There's lots and lots of people saying all sorts of stuff. What actually makes sense? Here's what makes sense. Do this. And no one's going to read it, right? They're going to get it and flip to a page that may or may... They might not even open it. But if they do, hopefully they flip to the page that makes sense to them. They'll read it. It's fun. It's got pictures. And they'll... And then there's a big bit about how to DIY, right? So why not DIY it? If it's really small, you could maybe, probably, possibly, depending who you are, DIY it. Well, if you can, great. And because I served you and kind of equipped you to do it, A, you might say, I can't be asked. I'm going to phone him anyway. But now you understand what I'm going to do when I get to your house. And B, the next time you run into something else, you're going to phone me anyway because hopefully I'm your trusted resource. So that's kind of the theory behind the book.
It's awesome. So you've been sitting here a long time. So to wrap this up, a question: do you think you're confident?
Yes, well, I don't sound confident when I answer that question.
No.
I think I am confident. Yeah,
you do.
Yeah.
Why?
I'm pretty confident in who I am. One of the conversations in our quarterly meeting was we just had someone leave the organization. Bit of a shock to us all. Quite sad. And one of the things they said was, I can't remember the word. It was a great word they used about me. It was very derogatory. And they said something.
You can say those on here. Because I've said way more derogatory things that could ever come out of your mouth.
I can't think what it was.
Don't make me make you sound like a bad person. Okay.
It wasn't rude. I mean, it was rude towards me, but it was basically that I was two-faced. And I can't think what the word was. It was a brilliant word. I thought, I've got to save that. I don't know where I'd use it. But anyway, so I shared that with the team, and I said, hey, guys, if I have a blind spot, I would like to know. Please tell me where my blind spot is. And they were all like, what? That guy's an idiot. And I said, look, one of the things I really pride myself on when we have these kinds of conversations is I really am only one person. The person I am in front of my team is who I am in front of my children and who I am when we're here together. I don't have to worry about what kind of person I was when I was somewhere else. Several drinks in, I might become a slightly more animated person, but I'm the same person. I don't have to worry about what did I say when I was drunk. I know what I said when I was drunk. It was in line with the kind of stuff I say all the time because I'm not putting anything on.
Yeah.
And so
why is confidence important? If you're confident, and what that means, is it important to have?
I think it is.
Okay, why?
Not sure yet. Let me think on that. It's got to be important. I think from an entrepreneur perspective, if you're not confident, why would when I come to your home and you're not going to get multiple bids on when you have mold in your home. You don't have mold in your home. But if you did, and I'm not sure what I'm doing, you'll weed that out. And so if I really know what I'm doing, I'm actually serving you better by being confident, knowing what I'm doing, and helping you make the decision to get the thing done properly.
So to wrap up this subject, how do we help people that aren't as confident as a James and a Mark, that don't wake up and have that strong self-esteem and the belief in themselves? How do we help them?
People we're around or people listening to?
Anyone that we're around people that are listening to this. So, how do we help them? Because if it's so important when you show up as a salesperson, operating a business, if it's important for you to show confidence in front of your team, right, that you have a belief that you can go out and accomplish whatever you're setting your mind to, how can you help people develop this confidence, this self-esteem, if they don't have it?
I don't think I'm very good at this. I think I do it somewhat naturally, but I really need to improve in it. Is praise. I think flowers flourish with water, right? Water and sunlight. They just do better if you look after them. And I've never grown a flower in my life, but I've heard that. And there's some Zig Ziglar thing in there as well, right? But people just do better. I reached out to you earlier. I put that post on Facebook, and I was like, and then I looked back at it and I was like, oh, I hope that didn't make it look like Saul had to turn me down or something. Right? And which wasn't what I wanted to do at all. My goal was I wanted to show everyone Saul's amazing. This is, if I could pick one cool thing to do today, it'd be bourbon with Saul.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's what I wanted to communicate. Hopefully I did.
And you weren't so confident in the response. You sent me a LinkedIn message, and you weren't so confident. What was my response to you? You were lacking confidence in the moment.
Was.
You were.
Because I was like, that might have not come across how I wanted it to.
And so on this end, though, when someone senses a lack of confidence, it's not good.
Right.
See, that's what we need to know the person on the other side.
Yeah.
If you lack confidence and you're going into an environment, a relationship, going on a date with someone, you're going in and try to win a sale, it is not going to serve you well.
No.
That person needs to believe in you. And if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to have some problems.
Right.
So when you sent that.
You sent me back.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. I don't know.
Yeah, it was quick.
Quickly, whatever it was.
Yeah.
You sent back something along the lines of, dude, you're awesome. Don't worry about it. Basically is what you said.
Yeah.
You said, hey, your intuition's awesome. Thanks. Doing great. So you praised me back.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, great. Things are good.
And you're good.
And even if I'd made a mistake.
Why am I going to sit back here and critique it because you do so many things well? Makes no sense.
Which is awesome.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's something I need to grow in. But I think that raises...
I think I can do that a little bit better. I think an opportunity critique pops up in my sphere a little bit more every day. So hey, we're in Kentucky, so we love us some bourbon. So it's sitting off camera here. We'll have a camera shot on it in the future as we grow. So I reached out to you when I knew you were going to come in. I said, "What's your favorite drink, alcoholic or non-alcoholic?" And you said
2 alcoholic drinks.
And you said, "What's your favorite?"
So I said, Uncle Nearest.
Okay.
And there's a beer called Tank 7 from Kansas City.
Okay, so I thought Tank 7 was another bourbon, so I'm walking into liquor stores, and I'm like, do you have Tank 7 bourbon? And these people are like, you know how many guys I see walk through the door asking for some dumb shit bourbon that they think they're going to buy because they're cool? And so I made some stupid excuse, and I said, but do you have Uncle Nearest? And they said they do.
Oh.
So we have some Uncle Nearest over here. So why Uncle Nearest?
Oh, have you heard the story?
No, that's what I'm asking you. Why Uncle Nearest? Because it's not the best name for a bourbon.
It's a balls name for a bourbon.
Okay, let's go.
So I listened to this lady who, so it's a woman owned. She's a black woman from California.
Hey Dave, can you get us the bottle of Uncle Nearest? I don't know if you can or not.
Throw it over.
All right, he's handing it. So Dave, they're going to hear a lot from him, the producer of our podcast.
Yeah.
He's awesome. It's in the back there behind the basil. Yeah.
The more Uncle Nearest he drinks, the more we hear from him.
So we're going to have it here. So Uncle Nearest. So keep on telling us about.
So she comes out to, long story, she wants to come visit Lynchburg, Tennessee, and her husband's like, hell no, I'm not going to a place called Lynchburg. But for her 40th birthday, I think it was, she wanted to come to Lynchburg, Tennessee. And she ends up, while she's there...
Hey, for the record, this isn't bourbon.
What?
Because if it's made in Tennessee, it can't be bourbon. It's whiskey.
Then I don't like it.
Well, you do because you said it's your favorite. So when you said Tennessee, I'm like, that cannot be bourbon. It has to be made in Kentucky.
You know what? I think she actually did cover that in the podcast.
For the record, it's small batch whiskey. This is shit. Throw it away. All right, sorry. I apologize. Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Dave.
Yeah, okay.
So she ends up meeting, there's a bit more to it than this, but this is what happens. She ends up meeting Jack Daniels' master distiller, a guy called Nearest Green, that everyone used to call Uncle Nearest. She meets his family. His ancestors, and they all don't trust her because she's this, producer from California.
But she's kind of from Tennessee. You don't trust people from Tennessee. No, I'm joking. I apologize to the volunteers. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, okay.
So, anyway, so she's like fascinated by the story that actually there's this picture of Jack Daniels with his leadership team, and in the middle, in the center, sitting down, the only person seated is this old black man in the center, and Jack Daniels and the rest of the leadership team are standing behind him. And in this picture, she says, well, then who's this black man? Why is he the center of attention? He's not looking like some unimportant dude. He's the center, the only seated person. Jack Daniels promoted this guy into this position. Who is he? It turns out he's the guy that came up with the recipe and was this master distiller and taught Jack Daniels how to make whiskey. Or bourbon, but it was whiskey.
And it was Uncle Nearest.
And so she basically meets the family and the family of the family of the family and all this stuff. And she puts together with them a family reunion and says, this is what I'd like to do. I would like to... She's a movie producer or a TV producer or something. She's like, long story, going to give up my career. I want to bring this story back to life. If you'll all help me do it, I'd like to make his recipes again. But this time it'll be owned by a black family in Lynchburg. Let's do it. And they ended up buying Jack Daniel's original family farm, and that's what they're doing. I just thought, what a crazy story. And then I try it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love the story. I love the idea. I love that she's just ballsy, that the family's behind it.
So his name is Nearest Green Distillery in
Yeah.
Shelbyville, Tennessee.
Oh, near Lynchburg.
Yeah, Shelbyville.
Apparently.
Let's get it right. Okay. Everybody knows the most famous Shelbyville is Kentucky, though, so let's get this shit straight. So,
I'm sure it's a nice place.
Hey, man, thanks for coming in. So we got you some Uncle Nearest whiskey.
We should try that.
Okay. Okay, we'll try it right when we get off here, right? So this could turn into a potentially drunken podcast in the future. We're going to try to taper that off till the end. But thanks for coming in, man.
Man, thanks.
It's just great to continue to get to know you and your business. And who knows, right now you're Cincinnati, Indiana, Northern Kentucky. If anybody knows you and needs restoration work, but it's awesome, man. It wouldn't matter the business that you were in. You could build homes. You could sell financial services. You could be in the fire service and do what your dad did. I think just participating with you in whatever business you're running, I think you're going to be better for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
So honored.
This is awesome, man. Thank you. All right, let's get the heck out of here and go have us a drink of Uncle Nearest. All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.